What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to show you how to compare two separate sets of data inside of N8N using their brand new Compare Datasets tool. Now, this tool is so helpful if you have two sets of data that need to be compared with one another. Let's say you have two lead lists and you want to know what's the same, what's different, which one is only in each of the spreadsheets, because that is going to be so common if you're working with, let's say, lead spreadsheets or even just data in general. So we have two data sets here, 1 and 2. What we're going to do is run and execute this workflow. What you'll see is it's going to first execute our data set 1, then it's going to go through data set 2, and then it is going to give us the output of everything, looking at what is in A only, what is all the same, what is in each different branch, and then of course what is only in B. We're going to walk through this step by step. I'm going to show you exactly how to build it. So if you want to check this out, then let's dive right into it now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start out by building the entire thing from scratch. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to start by adding, first of all, a new data set. So you're going to come up to the plus and we are going to add a Google spreadsheet tool. And what we are going to do is we're going to say get rows. So we are going to get rows. And if we are not already connected to our Google Sheets, then you're going to want to make sure you log in and add your credentials. What we're going to look for is our sheet within document, and we are going to get the rows. Now we're going to select the sheet that we want, which in this case is our data comparison. And we are going to select data set 1, which if you come over to our sheet, you'll see the title is our data set comparison. And we have our two sheets along the bottom, data set 1 and data set 2. Both are similar but different. So obviously this is a very simple example of how each one works because I want to just make it clear and concise and easy to understand. By the way, if you're brand new to AI agents and you're not exactly sure how automations or agents work, I put together a growth toolkit showing you everything that you need to know in order from figuring out ChatGPT, getting the most out of it, figuring what opportunities there are inside your business and in your life to really streamline and make more money, and then all the way through to walking you through setting up your first agents and your first automations. So what we're going to do is come back into our N8N platform, and we are going to leave everything set as we currently have it. So again, we're looking to get our rows from the N8N dataset comparison and then in sheet number 1. And that's good. What we'll say here is data set number 1. Just want to make sure that it's not named the same thing as above, which it's not. Perfect. Great. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we are going to Control or Command C and we're going to paste. So now we have a duplicate. Everything is the same here. We're going to double click. We're going to double click on our node. Oops, we accidentally executed it. So we're just going to change now because in this particular case, we're not using two separate files. If you were, that's also fine. But we are just going to switch to data set number 2. So what that means is we don't need to change the document. We just need to change the sheet. So here we go, data set number 2. And we can change the name of that as well. So we're going to say data set number 2. I'm going to get rid of this space because just for me, it's kind of bugging me. Go into data set number 1. Let's remove that and enter. Perfect. So now we have our two data sets. So what we then need to do is we need to use the new Compare Dataset tool. So what we're going to do, we're going to come to the plus icon at the top right, and we're just going to search Compare. So now you'll see Compare Datasets, which is compare two inputs for changes. So now what you'll see from here, the way that this is actually described is items from different branches are paired together when the fields below match. If the rest of the fields are compared to determine, if paired, the rest of the fields are compared to determine whether the items are the same or different. So here, we're going to move, as you can see, you can actually continue to compare. You can continue to add additional nodes at the end or additional tools after you compare, so you can actually execute based on what happens in the comparison. So we're going to move this down, and what we are going to do now is we're going to connect our input A and we are going to connect our input B. Currently, you can only compare two separate data sets in one. So here's what we're going to do. What we know is that we need to compare a field from input A, which is our spreadsheet with data set 1, and we need to compare that to a specific field in input B, which is our data set 2. So basically what this means is that we need to be able to say, okay, what are we looking for in the first data set? What are we looking for in the second data set? And those are the values that we are going to compare with one another. So what we're going to do is if we look at these sheets, what we're going to actually compare here is our email. Because when it comes to lead lists, you're usually going to have something that is unique. You could have John Smith, and there could be multiple people named John Smith, but they would only have one email address. Now, what you may also find is, let's say these were lead lists of businesses. You may have multiple people with the same name, or excuse me, with different names, but their email addresses are the same, info@business.com. And then you would want to do something, maybe filter those ones out because you don't want to send different emails or multiple emails to the same email address, just so you're not, making yourself look a little spammy. Just one example. So what we're going to do here is we know that the email is the column or the data that we want to compare. So what we're going to say here is email. We're going to type email. So now inside of input A, which is our data set number 1, we are looking for the email column. And same thing with data set number 2. So now what we're going to see is if we run this, we actually need a trigger here. So I can remove this trigger and I can just drag it down. Because now what we know is when we actually just click execute workflow, which is this button down here, then this sequence will actually execute. So we're going to compare these two data sets by clicking execute workflow. So we're going to run this. You'll see it's checking the data from data set 1, checking the data from data set 2, and now we can actually see if we look at the logs down here on the bottom, we have the information that it gathered from data set 1, the information it gathered from data set 2, and now we have the results of the comparison. So again, you see the different branches. In A only, we have one unique value. So what this means is that there is only one unique value that exists in data set A, which is this one here, the data set number 1, because it matches, the rest of them match something else. So we have one that exists inside of data set A only. The same branch, now you'll see, so in our case, let's look back. That was Alex Hormozy's email, alex@hormozy.com, which is right here. So nowhere else is this found. If I go to dataset 2, Alex Hormozy is not here, okay? But now what's next is if we go to the same branch, we have one item as well. So what that means is that row number 3, name Luke Combs, and the email luke@combs.com, those things all match exactly. So what I mean when I say they match exactly is it means that in row number 3, Luke Combs is the name and luke@combs.com is the email. Now, if I go over to data set number 2 on the bottom, you will see that in row 3, Luke Combs is the name and luke@combs.com is the email. Remember this, it's important, and I'll explain why in a second. So now, we see different. Here we have different. Okay, so we have Steve@apple.com, which is Steve Jobs. We have Steven@steven.com, which is Stephen Bartlett. And we have Shania Twain. So again, if I go back, we see that these are being recognized as different. So what that means now is that those values are different in row number 2. So if we see here, row number 2 is Morgan Wallen, but Morgan Wallen's name is steve@apple.com. Okay. And then if we go to data set number 1, we see Steve Jobs and then steve@apple.com. So the reason why this is coming up as different is because the email is in the same place, but the names are different. So it's recognizing it as different, okay? Now, one thing you'll notice, the same exists for Stephen and Chris Williamson. So we have Stephen Bartlett at row number 4, Stephen@Stephen.com. And then we have Chris Williamson, which is Chris Williamson at Stephen@Stephen.com. So again, there's a difference there because the name and the email do not match up to what's in the other form. Now, what you'll see here is that we have Shania Twain is row number 6 in data set number 2, but she's row number 5 in data set 1. So it's being recognized as different here because we see the names and the emails match. So you can see here, same, but the row numbers are different. So what's actually really interesting about this is if we click in here, what we can see is here's how you can actually filter this out into future nodes, because there are similarities and there are differences, right? So for example, we said that Chris Williamson and Stephen Bartlett they have different names, but they're sharing the same email. But what we can actually see here is we're getting same and different all in one result. So there's some extreme levels of filtering that you can do here, because there are things that come up the same, things that come up different, all within that different branch. It can get very complicated, but you have the ability to be very granular with your filtering. And again, with Shania Twain, for example, we see that her name and her email address was the same, but her actual row number was different. So again, we can get very detailed with this filtering. Now, in row B, in dataset B, we noticed that there is only one unique value there, and that is row number 5 for Wayne Gretzky. Okay, guys, so this is how you can use this new compare dataset tool to get really granular and filter out pieces of data based on the differences between two data sets, and really have an understanding of how you can take this in a lot of detail and start to disperse and really modify and navigate through a lot of this information. Okay, so again, drop some comments down below if you have any questions about how this works, if you want to see more detailed examples. And again, if you're just getting started with your AI automations or AI agents, grab the AI Growth Toolkit, which is linked in the bio below. Make sure to like and subscribe, because there's more of these videos coming every single week. All right, have a good one, guys.